Antarctica is the Earth's edge. In 2013, Ben Saunders and Tarka El Herpinairo became the first humans to walk 2,900 kilometers from the shore of the Antarctic to the South Pole and back again. But perhaps the greatest lesson, as Saunders explains here, was learned on their return home. 100 years after Captain Scott and his men perished in their tent of hypothermia and starvation, cut off and alone in Antarctica, the journey he died trying to complete attempting remained unfinished. The same journey had defeated Sir Ernest Shackleton 3 years before Scott's death, in 1909. Shackleton came within 97 miles of the pole on his Nimrod expedition, before turning for home. Scott's Terra Nova expedition arrived at the pole in January 1912 only to find they'd been beaten to it by a Norwegian team led by Roald Amundsen, which had traveled at high speed on dog sleds. All 5 of Scott's team died on their return journey. Their unfinished trek remained the high watermark of human endurance and endeavor in the toughest climate on Earth. No contemporary expedition could come close. It was as if the marathon record had somehow remained unbroken since 1912. Finishing it became a calling that marked his life forever. In the entire span of human history, only 9 people had attempted the journey from the shore of the continent of Antarctica to the South Pole and back. None had completed it. 5 had died trying. The scale and severity of the challenge that lay ahead was something that underpinned years of obsessive planning and preparation for me and my teammate Tarka El Herpinairo. In many instances our lives would be dependent on the reliability of our equipment. We carried nothing extraneous to simple survival. In many cases our lives hinged on seemingly basic items, the zip of a tent, the rubber seal of a vacuum flask, the simple plastic pump that powered our stove. What's more, our chances of success were intrinsically linked to the weight of our sleds. I became obsessed with making them lighter, says Saunders. We removed the labels from clothes. We cut the metal pullers from zips and replaced them with Kevlar cord loops. We sourced carbon fiber skis and poles and titanium spoons. We sawed the handles off our toothbrushes. Tarka and Saunders had set out to complete Scott's journey for the first time by dragging our leaden sledges in the footsteps he and his team had made for 900 miles. This trail began at the wooden hut that still stands on the shore of Ross Island, to the South Pole. Once we reached the pole, we would then haul them 900 miles back again. Saunders had, perhaps naively, expected that spending more than 100 days living on and traveling over this vast, white swathe of near nothingness might be conducive to the development of some form of expanded consciousness. He had anticipated that the lack of scenery, the lack of anything living at all, might have the same effect as the lack of chatter on a silent retreat. He thought that I might return home with some newfound Zen-like state of being. The reality was rather less idyllic. For 105 days the terrain became a giant white crucible. It was a place where we suffered. It was a place where we were tested and challenged in ways and degrees that I had never imagined possible. The scale of the journey we were trying to complete, which represented nearly 70 consecutive marathons, was at times overwhelming. To this day it is difficult to fathom, or to conceive. Antarctica is twice the size of Australia. It is the same size as China and India put together. It's almost impossible for us, raised for thousands of years with completely different scales of comprehension, to understand the sorts of distances and conditions of this place at the end of the world. They rarely felt at one with Antarctica. We fought tooth and nail for every foot of every mile that we covered. Our relationship with nature, with the wind, the temperatures, and with the snow, was largely adversarial. At times Antarctica stunned us with moments of beauty and majesty that defy description, says Saunders. And at times it felt malevolent. It felt as if we weren't supposed to be there, and that the place, the environment, was trying to kill us. It was more than able to do this at any moment, perhaps by snatching away our tent in a storm, or by gradually snuffing out our precious body heat, day by day. At times we were conscious that we were these tiny little specks of heat in a vast, murderous expanse of deadly cold. We completed our journey. we had succeeded in the endeavour that had defeated Shackleton and claimed the lives of Captain Scott and his men, the longest human-powered polar expedition in history. Before we set off, I think I'd expected a slightly more decorous homecoming than the one we got, says Saunders. Perhaps we would be awarded an MBE or a Polar Medal, or an invitation or two to a breakfast TV sofa. Very little came. He spent most of 2014 recovering, hermit-like and cantankerous, before the realization gradually dawned on me that the only two people who could ever genuinely appreciate what we had been through were Tarka and me, says Saunders. According to Saunders, we had done something no one had ever done before, and been to places no one had ever been, literally as well as figuratively. It slowly occurred to me that waiting for some form of external validation was fruitless. It was impossible for anyone else to really get it. The scale of the feat, and the smallness of ourselves as humans, is too great a disjuncture. The two can never be reconciled. The biggest lesson this giant challenge has taught me is that fulfillment and success and self-acceptance isn't a finish line that you two might cross one day if you push, or indeed pull, hard enough. It's a moment-to-moment decision. Thank you.
Certainly have to be as large as it is said to be, 25,000 miles in circumference. Now, the thing which I have called a proof of the Earth's roundness, and which is presented to children at school, is, that if we stand on the seashore we may see the ships, as they approach us, absolutely coming up, and that, as we are able to see the highest parts of these ships first, it is because the lower parts are behind the Earth's curve. Now since if this were the case, that is, if the lower parts of these ships were behind a hill of water, the size of the Earth, indicated by such a curve as this, would be so small that it would only be big enough to hold the people of a parish. If they could get all round it, instead of the nations of the world, it follows that the idea is preposterous. That the appearance is due to another and to some reasonable cause, and that, instead of being a proof of the globular form of the Earth, it is a proof that Earth is not a globe. It is often said that, if the Earth were flat, we could see all over it. This is the result of ignorance. If we stand on the level surface of a plain or a prairie, and take notice, we shall find that the horizon is formed at about 3 miles all around us, that is, the ground appears to rise up until, at that distance, it seems on a level with the eye line or line of sight. Consequently, objects no higher than we stand, say, 6 feet, and which are at that distance, 3 miles, have reached the vanishing point, and are beyond the sphere of our unaided vision. This is the reason why the hull of a ship disappears, in going away from us, before the sails, and, instead of there being about it the faintest shadow of evidence of the Earth's rotundity. It is a clear proof that Earth is not a globe. The Earth were a globe, people, except those on the top, would, certainly, have to be fastened to its surface by some means or other, whether by the attraction of astronomers or by some other undiscovered and undiscoverable process. But, as we know that we simply walk on its surface without any other aid than that which is necessary for locomotion on a plane, it follows that we have, herein, a conclusive proof that Earth is not a globe. The Earth were a globe, there certainly would be, if we could imagine the thing to be peopled all round, antipodes. People who, says the dictionary, living exactly on the opposite side of the globe to ourselves, have their feet opposite to ours, people who are hanging heads downwards whilst we are standing heads up. But, since the theory allows us to travel to those parts of the Earth where the people are said to be heads downwards, and still to fancy ourselves to be heads upwards and our friends whom we have left behind, us to be heads downwards, it follows that the whole thing is a myth, a dream, a delusion, and a snare, and, instead of there being any evidence at all in this direction to substantiate the popular theory, it is a plain proof that the Earth is not a globe. If we examine a true picture of the distant horizon, or the thing itself, we shall find that it coincides exactly with a perfectly straight and level line. Now, since there could be nothing of the kind on a globe, and we find it to be the case all over the Earth, it is a proof that the Earth is not a globe. If we take a journey down the Chesapeake Bay, by night, we shall see the light exhibited at Sharp's Island for an hour before the steamer gets to it. We may take up a position on the deck so that the rail of the vessel's side will be in a line with the light and in the line of sight, and we shall find that in the whole journey the light won't vary in the slightest degree in its apparent elevation. But, say that a distance of 13 miles has been traversed, the astronomer's theory of curvature demands a difference, one way or the other, in the apparent elevation of the light, of 112 feet 8 inches. Since, however, there is not a difference of 100 hairs' breadths, we have a plain proof that the water of the Chesapeake Bay is not curved, which is a proof that the Earth is not a globe. If the Earth were a globe, there would, very likely, be, for nobody knows, 6 months day and 6 months night at the Arctic and Antarctic regions, as astronomers dare to assert there is. For their theory demands it. But, as this fact, the 6 months day and 6 months night, is nowhere found but in the Arctic regions, it agrees perfectly with everything else that we know about the Earth as a plane, and, whilst it overthrows the accepted theory, it furnishes a striking proof that Earth is not a globe. The Sun crosses the equator, in March, and begins to circle round the heavens in north latitude. The inhabitants of high northern latitude see him slimming round their horizon and forming the break of their long day, in a horizontal course, not disappearing again for 6 months, as he rises higher and higher in the heavens whilst he makes his 24-hour circle until June, when he begins to descend and goes on until he disappears beyond the horizon in September. Thus, in the northern regions, they have that which the traveler calls the midnight sun, as he sees that luminary at a time when, in his more southern latitude, it is always midnight. If, for 1/2 the year, we may see for ourselves the sun making horizontal circles round the heavens, it is presumptive evidence that, for the other half year, he is doing the same, although beyond the boundary of our vision. This, being a proof that Earth is a plane, is, therefore, a proof that the Earth is not a globe. We have abundance of evidence that the Sun moves daily round and over the Earth in circles concentric with the northern region over which hangs the North Star. But, since the theory of the Earth being a globe is necessarily connected with the theory of its motion round the Sun in a yearly orbit, it falls to the ground when we bring forward the evidence of which we speak, and, in so doing, forms a proof that the Earth is not a globe. Suez Canal, which joins the Red Sea with the Mediterranean, is about 100 miles long. It forms a straight and level surface of water from one end to the other, and no allowance for any supposed curvature was made in its construction. It is a clear proof that the Earth is not a globe. Thanks so much for your time. Always visit this channel for more update.
The frozen continent of Antarctica contains a vast majority of all fresh water on Earth. Now that ice is melting at an accelerating rate, in part because of climate change. What does this transformation mean for coastal communities across the globe? William Branham reports from Antarctica on the troubling trend of ice loss and how glaciers can serve as a climate record from the past.
As far as the eye can see, Antarctica is covered by thick sheets of ice. In some places, that ice is several miles deep. This massive continent, as big as the US and Mexico combined, has for millions of years been home to some of the most breathtaking examples of ice on the planet.
What you can see behind me here is a very good cross-section of a glacier in Antarctica. And what you can see with all of those different layers, that is hundreds and thousands of years of snowfall and precipitation stacking up one on top of the other and slowly exerting pressure downward on those layers of snow, and that's basically how a glacier is formed.
But Antarctica's ice is now increasingly being threatened, and most researchers believe it's because of climate change. According to one recent study, the continent's ice is slipping away 6 times faster than it was 40 years ago.
And Antarctica is now losing 252 gigatons of ice per year.
Glaciologist Joe McGregor is part of the team at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center that's studying Antarctica's ice. Using radar and lasers, they measure the thickness of the ice, how it's moving, and whether it's growing or shrinking. This animation they built shows a sped-up version of how the ice flows on the continent.
Help me understand what that means, 250 gigatons.
A gigaton is a billion metric tons of ice. And when you do the math, you wind up with the Antarctic ice sheet is out of balance by more than 3.5 swimming pools per second.
Every second, 3 Olympic-sized swimming pools worth of ice is disappearing from Antarctica.
Yes, when considered on average over the year.
Just to put that in perspective, in the amount of time it takes to watch this story, Antarctica will shed more water than New York City uses every day. The warming that's causing this ice loss varies in different parts of Antarctica. Here on the peninsula, the long branch of land coming off the northwest corner of the continent, warming has been especially pronounced. At the Vernadsky Research Station, which is run by the Ukrainian government, meteorologists like Oleksandr Poluden have been keeping some of the longest-term temperature records on the continent. While it's warmed and cooled at different times, Poluden says the overall trend here on the peninsula is clear.
You will notice that the temperature doesn't tend to increase all the time, as there are certain fluctuations from year to year. However, it becomes evident that over about 70 years, the average year-round temperature has increased by 3.5 degrees.
It's becoming clearer that parts of Antarctica appear to be unstable and are losing ice much faster than we expected.
Michael Oppenheimer is a climate scientist and professor of geoscience at Princeton University. He says this ice loss will only accelerate sea level rise, which happens for 2 reasons. One, a warming atmosphere warms the oceans, and warmer water expands and rises. Secondly, warming also melts ice and glaciers all over the world, sending new water into the ocean.
So ultimately, if we lose all the ice that's vulnerable to a warming of only a few degrees, we're talking about a very, very, very big sea level rise.
The most recent UN report predicts 1 foot of sea level rise this century if we continue burning oil and gas and coal at our current pace. But a growing number of researchers believe that because of the emissions we've already put up into the atmosphere, that prediction understates the threat.
The continent's warming from below and also, from above.
Alexandra Eisern oversees all Antarctic science for the National Science Foundation, who, for the record, is a NewsHour underwriter. She says that in West Antarctica, 2 huge glaciers, Pine Island and Thwaites, are considered at serious risk of collapse.
There's some researchers that study Pine Islands and the Thwaites Glacier that feel that it's become sufficiently destabilized that we won't be able to recover.
Michael Oppenheimer says if just one of those glaciers winds up in the ocean, sea levels will rise 5 times higher than the UN predicted.
The current estimates are if the Thwaites Glacier were to totally disintegrate into the ocean, that ultimately sea level would rise by something like 5 feet. In areas around some of our biggest cities, New York, Boston, Miami, where you've got a lot of development, homes, buildings, infrastructure like roads, very close to sea level. How do you defend those? How would Bangladesh protect itself? It's got many hundreds of miles of coastline. It's all right at sea level. You can't build a wall to protect that whole coast. There's actually nothing that can be done.
That's millions of people that are going to have to move.
Right. There are about 150 million people that live in Bangladesh, and probably a few million of them would have to move back. And where are they going to go in such a densely populated country? And there's already strife when people try to move into India. People get killed trying to do that now. What's going to happen when you have a few million people that all of a sudden try to move? It's not a pretty picture.
Part of the reason Antarctica's glaciers are threatened is that they've been losing some crucial protection. Many glaciers form what are known as ice shelves, huge platforms of ice, some as wide as Texas and hundreds of stories tall, that grow out over the ocean and help hold their much larger glaciers up on land. They hold it back and not let it slide into the sea.
Imagine a piece of ice the size of Texas, pretty thick, is going to slow the ice as it tries to flow into the ocean.
Robin Bell of Columbia University's Lamont Doherty Earth Observatory has been studying Antarctica's ice for over 20 years.
Ice shelves are very important. They're essentially acting as bouncers in the bar, leaning up against the door and keeping the ice from flowing into the ocean.
But as the atmosphere keeps warming, major ice shelves in Antarctica have also been collapsing. In 2002, the Larsen B ice shelf, the size of Rhode Island, completely disintegrated. These are satellite images of it breaking up into hundreds of pieces. As predicted, the glaciers that Larsen B anchored up on land began accelerating towards the ocean. And then, 2 years ago, the even bigger Larsen C shelf, this is it from the air, developed that miles-long crack in it. This shelf, which sits in front of the Thwaites Glacier, is also crumbling. And part of the Brunt ice shelf is expected to break off any day now, releasing an iceberg that'll be twice the size of Manhattan. There's still some debate over whether human-induced warming is the only thing causing these changes. Antarctica has lost ice many times before, and that also caused the seas to rise. Researchers are now trying to determine how much warmth it takes to cause truly catastrophic sea level rise.
That massive glacier that you see behind me connects all the way up above those peaks to the enormous West Antarctic ice sheet. And all of that ice and snow contains a remarkable history of Earth's past climate.
It's like a tape recorder, 10,000-foot tape recorder in places. And so scientists have drilled ice cores through the layers as far down as they can get, and then they analyze those layers.
Glaciologist Robert Mulvaney, that's him in the black cap, works for the British Antarctic Survey. He and a small team have been drilling over 2,000 feet down into the ice sheet and pulling out these ice cores.
What we've been trying to do is recover a climate record of the last glacial cycle, so the last 120 to 140,000 years, to try to understand how our climate might change over the next 100 years or so as the climate responds to increased carbon dioxide in the atmosphere.
The evidence from these cores and many others indicate that when the Earth's climate was just a little bit warmer than it is today, the world's oceans were over 20 feet higher.
So 120,000 years ago, when the climate was probably 2 degrees warmer than today, and sea level was maybe 6 to 9 meters higher than today.
Given the uncertainties over how serious sea level rise will be and over what time span it'll occur, Michael Oppenheimer argues that there's still time to act and to prepare.
Doesn't mean we should all throw up our hands and run. Let's start thinking straight. Let's start thinking fast about how we're going to help people, how we're going to help settlements, how we're going to help countries deal with the outcome. Because a lot of it is not going to be pretty, it's going to be expensive, and it's going to be disruptive if we don't get our act together now.
This year, teams from several different nations are studying the Thwaites Glacier, trying to determine whether it's past the point of no return, and if so, how soon its ice could end up in the ocean. For the PBS NewsHour, I'm William Brangham in Antarctica.
To prove that the Earth is flat. A group of flat earthers are prepared to set sail on a bizarre journey to the Antarctic to prove once and for all that the Earth is flat and we are living on the flat line. The group, spearheaded by the intellectuals over at Flat Earth International Conference, the same group that believes NASA is run by a conspirator, are hell-bent on perpetuating the myth of the spherical Earth. They plan to set sail within this year. Logan Paul, the international weather punching bag, is reportedly interested in attending. Paul, you may remember, launched a teaser for his upcoming documentary, The Flat Earth, to the Earth and Back. The trailer follows the controversial vlogger on a trip to a Flat Earth conference where he seems to begin questioning his previous beliefs and embracing new theory itself. So far, little is known about the trip itself. What we do know is that flat earthers are plotting a course to Antarctica, where they hope to see the ice wall they believe encircles the planet. It is said to be 164 feet tall and thousands of feet thick. I'm not making this up. If you take a globe and you squish it down, the Antarctic will go all the way around the Earth. It's kind of like an ice shore and it's very, very large. It is not like you just go there and you can just speak over it. Robbie Davidson, FEF's founder, told folks, "We don't believe anything can fall off the edge because a big portion of the flat earth community believes that we are in a dome like a snow globe." Granted that about the end of the line without flat earthers agreeing on anything, it is a community rift with infighting and war in which the only consensus is that we are living a lie on a planet that actually a dome, not a sphere. Still, one has to wonder why a group of conspiracy theorists like the Flat Earth Society hasn't just ponied up the cash to prove its theory. Planes and boats exist after all. At the surface, it appears the group is content with spending money on conferences to talk about the theory rather than actually proving it. Of course, it is unlikely that a little thing like proof will convince anyone other than the group's most fickle members, but there's always Logan Paul. Conclusively, as I have always said and proved severally, the earth is flat and immovable. Thank you very much for watching.
Believe me that Duke Wayne was very often at political gatherings and so forth, and most supportive of me, and I was very grateful to him for it. And he was typical John Wayne when things happened, for or against. I remember, however, a meeting, and this was before politics for me, but back when I was president of the Screen Actors Guild. And this was at a time when there was a great communist infiltration of the motion picture industry. I don't think very many people are aware of this, that it really was, and it wasn't just something that a few of us dreamed up. The FBI was very much involved in it, and there was no question but that on orders from the Kremlin, it was to try and get control of the product of the motion picture industry, because at that time, Hollywood pictures took about 90% of the playing time of all the screens of the world. And Stalin had publicly stated that this was the greatest medium for propaganda possible. And I remember one night at a Screen Actors Guild meeting, and I had been tipped off by the agency that how they operated to control meetings and to keep them going to the late hours until people would begin leaving, and then they knew their own count. And when they were then in the majority, if enough people left, then they would start passing the motions that they wanted. So I was made aware of that. And, you know, you and I, if we were going to control a meeting, we'd go in a body and sit together. No, they scattered. So that every time the floor was released and I was chairing the meeting, their hands went up, all of them, so that no matter who you pointed to, you had a 90% chance of catching one of them. Well, being aware of this, and when it started, the thing about that, when the legitimate business was over, one of our people did what I had proposed doing, and that is made an motion for adjournment. And there was a second to the motion, and I called out in the audience, and I said a motion to adjourn is always acceptable. They started yelling, point of order, point of order. Well, their point of order was that the second was just an anonymous voice from out in the audience, and how could I claim that this had been moved and seconded and so forth? I hadn't. And I just looked out of the audience, and I saw Duke Wayne sitting out there. And I said, well, not at all anonymous. I said, Duke, that was you, wasn't it, that seconded the motion? And Duke says, of course it was me. You could count on him.
I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us. We might not be one, but let's not be selfish. And because we're not going to change the world, let's not talk about how we should change it. I don't know how to change it, but I know if I keep talking about how dirty it is out here, somebody will clean it up. What I want people to know is that don't Don't support the phone.
Lately I really feel like I'm roaming for doubt like Billy. Feel like I'm losing control of myself. I sincerely apologize if all that I sound like is I'm complaining, but life keeps on complicating it. Hell, can't do it myself. 2 weeks I've been having ups and downs, going through peaks and valleys, dilly-dallying around with the idea of ending this shit right here. Shit, I'm debating on leaving this world this evening. Even my girls can see I'm grieving. I try to hide it, but I can't. Why do I act like I'm all high and mighty when inside I'm dying? I'm finally realizing I'm hating my reflection. I walk around the house trying to fight mirrors. I can't stand what I look like. Yeah, I look bad, but what do I care? I give a fuck. Only thing I fear is Haley. I'm afraid if I close my eyes, I might see her.
There's never a good day, cause in my hood they let their AKs pump strays where the kids play. And every Halloween, check out the murder scene. Can't help but duplicate the violence seen on the screen. I wonder if heaven got a ghetto, and if it does, doesn't matter if you blood or you cuz. Remember how it was, the picnics and the parties in the projects, small time drinking, getting high with the mob. My homies gone before they get to see their birthdays. This is the worst days, sometimes it hurts to pray, and even God turned his back on the ghetto youth. I know that ain't the truth. Sometimes I look, sometimes I'm just another knucklehead kid from the gutter. I'm dealing with the madness, raised by a single mother. I'm trying to tell you when it's on, you gotta keep your head to the sky and be strong, be strong.
No, sir, Mr. Beckworth. It doesn't take a lead weight to fall on me or a hit from one of those weapons to recognize that what's involved here is communist domination of the world.
Here is a cartoon with a difference. It tells a compelling story for every adult. Come and visit Animal Farm, where all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others.
Frankly, my dear, I don't give it.
Travel the world and the 7 seas. Sweet dreams are made of these.
Have you ever wondered if the Earth is actually a flat disk, as depicted in ancient cosmologies? This question has sparked the flat Earth theory, rooted in early human understanding of our world. Yet, as we've grown and explored, our comprehension of the cosmos has expanded. This video will delve into the intriguing origins of this theory and, more importantly, present compelling scientific evidence that counters it. So prepare your minds, dear listeners. Let's dive into the evidence that unequivocally proves the Earth is not flat but a sphere. First, let's consider gravity, an invisible force that pulls objects towards each other. This force isn't choosy. It influences all things, from the smallest speck of dust to the most colossal celestial bodies. And our home, Earth, is no exception. Gravity pulls everything towards its center. Picture this. You're holding a handful of marbles and you let them go. What happens? They scatter, right? But if there were a force pulling them towards a central point, they would converge and form a clump. That's essentially what gravity does. It pulls everything towards the center, causing Earth to take on a spherical shape. Now imagine a different scenario. What if Earth were flat? In that case, gravity would behave in a very peculiar way, pulling everything towards the center and causing strange, observable effects. Yet we don't see these oddities in our daily life. Gravity alone provides substantial evidence of Earth's spherical shape. Have you ever observed a ship sail away into the distance from a beach? Picture this. As the vessel ventures further, the hull vanishes first, followed by the rest of the ship. If the Earth were as flat as a pancake, the entire ship would remain in view, just dwindling into a dot with distance. But alas, this isn't the case. Ships disappear hull first, hinting at a curved surface beneath. This everyday observation is a simple yet powerful proof of Earth's curvature. Ever marveled at a lunar eclipse? During this celestial spectacle, our planet casts a shadow on the moon. This shadow, my friends, is round just like a ball, not flat like a pancake. Now, if the Earth were as flat as a disk, wouldn't it cast a similar flat shadow? Yet we don't see that. Instead, we witness a beautiful, round shadow, consistent with a spherical Earth. The round shadow we see on the moon during a lunar eclipse is yet another testimony to Earth's sphericity. So why does the flat Earth theory persist in the face of such overwhelming evidence? A curious question indeed. Despite the irrefutable scientific proof, there are those who remain steadfast in their belief of a flat Earth, driven by misconceptions and a mistrust in science. It's a fascinating testament to the power of belief and the complexities of human understanding. While the idea of a flat Earth might tantalize the imagination, the evidence speaks for itself. Our home planet is a beautiful sphere spinning in the vast expanse of space. Have you ever wondered if the Earth is actually a flat disk, as depicted in ancient cosmologies? This question has sparked the flat Earth theory, rooted in early human understanding of our world. Yet, as we've grown and explored, our comprehension of the cosmos has expanded. This video will delve into the intriguing origins of this theory and, more importantly, present compelling scientific evidence that counters it. So prepare your minds, dear listeners. Let's dive into the evidence that unequivocally proves the Earth is not flat but a sphere. First, let's consider gravity, an invisible force that pulls objects towards each other. This force isn't choosy. It influences all things, from the smallest speck of dust to the most colossal celestial bodies. And our home, Earth, is no exception. Gravity pulls everything towards its center. Picture this. You're holding a handful of marbles and you let them go. What happens? They scatter, right? But if there were a force pulling them towards a central point, they would converge and form a clump. That's essentially what gravity does. It pulls everything towards the center, causing Earth to take on a spherical shape. Now imagine a different scenario. What if Earth were flat? In that case, gravity would behave in a very peculiar way, pulling everything towards the center and causing strange, observable effects. Yet we don't see these oddities in our daily life. Gravity alone provides substantial evidence of Earth's spherical shape. Have you ever observed a ship sail away into the distance from a beach? Picture this. As the vessel ventures further, the hull vanishes first, followed by the rest of the ship. If the Earth were as flat as a pancake, the entire ship would remain in view, just dwindling into a dot with distance. But alas, this isn't the case. Ships disappear hull first, hinting at a curved surface beneath. This everyday observation is a simple yet powerful proof of Earth's curvature. Ever marveled at a lunar eclipse? During this celestial spectacle, our planet casts a shadow on the moon. This shadow, my friends, is round just like a ball, not flat like a pancake. Now, if the Earth were as flat as a disk, wouldn't it cast a similar flat shadow? Yet we don't see that. Instead, we witness a beautiful round shadow, consistent with a spherical Earth. The round shadow we see on the Moon during a lunar eclipse is yet another testimony to Earth's sphericity. So why does the flat Earth theory persist in the face of such overwhelming evidence? A curious question indeed. Despite the irrefutable scientific proof, there are those who remain steadfast in their belief of a flat Earth, driven by misconceptions and a mistrust in science. It's a fascinating testament to the power of belief and the complexities of human understanding. While the idea of a flat Earth might tantalize the imagination, the evidence speaks for itself. Our home planet is a beautiful sphere spinning in the vast expanse of space.
Everybody loves the nuts. Another Columbia fella, so Queen Isabella. I don't think the world is flat. Now, what do you think about that?
And Queen Isabella turned to Columbia fella, and she said, "You don't."
And he said, "No, man."
And she said, "Well, you get out of my queendom."
And he said, "Well, whatever."
The Earth is flat. The indoctrination of the population is done from the school benches, creating a false image of everything we see and believe. Over the course of 500 years, using everything from books, magazines, and television to computer-generated imaging, a multi-generational conspiracy has succeeded, in the minds of the masses, to pick up the fixed Earth, shape it into a ball, spin it in circles, and throw it around the sun. The sun and the moon are close here, inside the dome. In schools where every professor's desk is adorned with a spinning Earth globe, we are lectured on the heliocentric theory of the universe, shown images of ball planets and videos of men suspended in space. Indoctrination and lying are so great that everything that is false has come to be believed. The illusion created, connivingly convincing, has entranced the world's population into blindly believing a maleficent myth. As a child, the system shows you the world as it wants, the fictional world as if it were a real world. When you become an adult, you realize that the things you learn in school do not correspond to reality. Children are taught in their geography books, when too young to apprehend or write the meaning of such things, that the world is a great globe revolving around the sun, and the story is repeated continuously, year by year, till they reach maturity, at which time they generally become so absorbed in other matters as to be indifferent as to whether the teaching be true or not, and, as they hear of nobody contradicting it, they presume that it must be the correct thing, if not to believe at least to receive it as a fact. They thus tacitly give their assent to a theory which, if it had first been presented to them at what are called years of discretion, they would at once have rejected. The consequences of evil teaching, whether in religion or in science, are far more disastrous than is generally supposed, especially in a luxurious laissez-faire age like our own. The intellect becomes weakened and the conscience seared. Accept what you have learned until you become your own observer of what you have learned. For those that are still clinging to the spinning ball Earth, let me break down the speeds and motions of the heliocentric globuli, so you may better understand how foolish and ridiculous it is. Now NASA as well as contemporary astronomy say the Earth is a large globe rotating 1,000 miles per hour around its central axis, taking a trip 67,000 miles per hour circles around the Sun, spiraling 500,000 miles per hour around the Milky Way.
while the entire galaxy rockets a ludicrous 670 million miles per hour through the universe, with all these motions stemming from a declared alleged Big Bang cosmogenic surge 14 billion years back. That's a grand overall of 670,568,000 miles per hour in numerous various directions we're all supposedly speeding along at, all at once. Yet no person has actually ever seen, felt, heard, measured or proven such movement, yet the huge bulk of individuals unquestioningly accept that the plainly motionless Earth under their feet is actually moving over 600 million miles per hour.
Okay. There you go.
Stage 1 landing leg deployed. Stage 1 landing confirmed.
And we had a little bit of a rough camera view there for just read the instructions.
Is the Earth flat?
Flat Earth is what we're living on. If you think the world is round, you're totally wrong. Flat Earth is what we're living on.
The Earth is flat.
Shaq, what are you talking about?
The Earth is flat.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No,
listen,
it's not.
There's 3 ways to manipulate the mind. America. But when he got there, it was some I drive from coast to coast, and this is flat to me. I'm just saying.
To get over.
I do not go up and down in a 360-degree angle and all that stuff about gravity. Have you looked outside of Atlanta lately and seen all these buildings? So you mean to tell me that China is under us? China is under us.
If you keep they are under us.
That's
They tell you when you're a kid.
The world is
if
flat.
you dug straight through your backyard, you could get to China.
No, you can't.
The world is not flat.
Yes, it is.
We've seen the Earth.
No, we haven't seen anything.
Yes, you have. You've seen it from satellite imagery.
Oh, satellite imagery that could be drawn and made up.
We had unlocked the secret of unlimited energy at a time when the rest of the world still thought the Earth was flat.
And then I showed examples of wide-angle lenses curving horizontal. I tweeted that.
Group somersault. Can you do one for me?
Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth.
There's no place to go. The Earth is a closed system.
You don't see the curvature of the Earth.
The Earth is a closed system.
That stuff is flat.
One thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth.
Johnson put forth.
One thing I really want your generation to embrace is that the Earth is a closed system. We cannot leave the Earth.
It is Photoshop, but it has to be. It is Photoshop, but it has to be. It is Photoshop, but it has to be. What you're seeing here is the mirage.
Most of our satellite.
You know, someone said that the world's a stage and each must play a part.
Place names are good, and for country and western music, no complex allegory. It has to be plain and simple. Like, I shot my dog. Something nicer than that. Something nicer than that. Place name. I just got back. Kansas City.
How do we take science and how do we make sure that that stays relevant and expanding?
So what we need is a reality show where you get someone who's in denial of science, then overnight you take everything out of their life that is science enabled. Okay? Where's my cell phone? Sorry, that uses GPS satellites. It's a space program. And I think Earth is flat. Okay, so you don't get to fly in an airplane because you might fly off the edge of the Earth. But you have to put a limit to that because there's a level at which you can take.
NASA has been busted left, right, upside down, everywhere.
100,000 views overnight. I had no idea this video was going to go viral, but since it has, and there's a lot of people in the comments claiming that there are pictures of Earth from space, let's address it. The most common thing that people are saying is the Earthrise, the moon, the shot from the moon, Earthrise. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, this is not Earthrise behind me, but I'm going to get to that. I don't even know where to start. For those that don't know, many of the NASA photos that they've put out claiming it is Earth from space, you can go into to adjust the settings as shown here, and you will see the box around Earth. The same thing applies to the Earthrise photo. If you go in and adjust the settings, a box pops up. What does this mean? It means that this is an inserted image. There is no box around the Earth in space, last time anyone checked. So this is an image that was inserted, proving that they are lying to you. So in the next clip, I will show you the Earthrise doing the same thing. It's not as high quality, it's a little grainy. Rob Skiba does an excellent presentation on this entire thing, rest in peace, exposing how NASA fakes some of these photos. So one down and a few more to go. So here we are at the Earthrise photo. Now, like I said, this is a bad quality one, but if you go and do this yourself and adjust the settings, you will see it a lot clearer. You just really have to ask yourself at this point, why are we inserting the Earth into images and proposing them to be real? Why are there 0 full hemisphere? Let me be clear, because a lot of people got this misconstrued. Full hemisphere, like the entire half of the Earth, in frame between 1972 and the 2000s. So for 30 years, they couldn't take a single photograph of the entire Earth, the entire hemisphere. Why not? So I love how half the people in the comments are saying, oh, well, they couldn't get far away enough. That's why we don't have any. And then the other half of the naysayers are saying, we do have some. So are you all even on the same page? Do we have some? Have you come to terms that there are none? And if you don't find it weird that they couldn't take a picture in 30 years, I just don't know if I can help you at that point. And also, to those that are sending the Earthrise and not taking it a step back further and realizing that we didn't go to the moon, please see my IG story highlight titled Moon, because it shows the leaked footage of them faking the shots out the window. They never went. And this has been exposed from NASA's own leaked footage. Please go watch that, because sending me photographs from the moon, which we didn't go to, are pointless. Okay, so here we are at the famous blue marble, the one that was on everyone's cell phone when the new phones came out. Everyone thought it was a real photograph. First of all, if you don't think it's a red flag that you found out the most famous shot of the Earth was created in Photoshop, also, don't know if I can help you. But this is a fake photograph. I'm gonna post a clip of someone describing it. But you gotta think, they weren't able to take a picture like this for 30 years. Going to the moon, sending satellites out, taking pictures of things millions of light years away, far off galaxies, never once popped a little satellite up there and turned around and took a picture. And then people say, oh, but you don't understand how the composites work. They have to do it. I start hearing this this justification that it all makes sense because NASA explained how this is how it's got to be done, so therefore it must be true. All I'm gonna say is if you take this explanation as acceptable, and you're okay with it, that this is the only way that they're able to take a photo. You can't just, send a rocket up there and live stream us the Earth while the rocket, and then show it to us as a whole ball, and then maybe just take a screenshot of that. It's comical if you really dig deep. Check out this clip from NASA's own data visual analyzer, Robert Simon.
Nearly everyone interested in space has seen this picture. It was released by NASA and has the iconic name, the Blue Marble 2. You can find the picture everywhere, but one of the best places to find it is NASA's own website. This photograph is iconic because NASA says it is one of the most detailed true color images of the entire Earth to date. To put it in a nutshell, the picture is iconic. Well, amazingly, it turns out a number of internet sleuths have now found compelling new evidence that the image is indeed a fake. Now, let's take a look. At first the photo seems legit. I mean, it looks like Earth, the Earth that we have always been told we live on. Here we can see clear examples that the photograph has not only been doctored or constructed, but also strong evidence that whoever done the doctoring used repeating photographic templates. That is, They cloned parts of the image and repeated it. That is, the photograph is a construction. This does not happen in nature. Clouds do not repeat in the same pattern like this. The chances of this happening in the same photograph are low. The only way this could happen is if someone has cloned clouds and painted them on. This of course could be for a number of reasons. You could argue that NASA simply touched up the photograph for effect, or that it was a problem with the imaging systems that were used. But still the question exists, why is NASA releasing fake pictures of Earth? If they are going to release a picture of Earth to be used in museums and by educators, as they state for the Blue Marble 2, then should they not release real images of Earth instead, or manipulated or fake images? Since the natural extension of this is, what other images have they doctored? The Moon, Pluto, Mars? Maybe all of them. And if they are faking pictures to such an extent, whether by wanting them to look better, or other reasons, then what real scientific value are they? Isn't science about finding the truth? And is that not hard to do, when you are being fed inaccurate, or in this case, completely manufactured data? NASA says these images are to be used by educators, museums, and scientists. Which means, they are passing off the image as a real picture of Earth, when it is not.
Then in 2002, Blue Marble 2.0, NASA's Rob Simon made this. And it had wide appeal too. For example, it ended up as the default background on the iPhone.
I didn't even know until I bought an iPhone and turned it on and kind of did a little happy dance.
Simon's job is...
It's primarily taking data and making pictures out of it.
That's what this is, a composite of data sets from several different instruments translated into a picture.
To us, the really cool thing was the data set. Up until that point, there was no realistic color map of the globe anywhere.
So the land layer here comes from
the Moderate Resolution Imaging Spectroradiometer aboard Terra.
And the tricky part here was the weather.
So we actually had to take clouds out.
They stashed the clouds for later, went onto the ocean. That came from an instrument that measures phytoplankton in the sea.
Where it was low, I colored it dark blue because they're low mostly in mid-oceans. And then where it's a little bit higher, it was like a little bit brighter green.
Then add the clouds back in.
There's a small problem with it because there's a very slight gap in between each orbit.
So some of those are painted on.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
Then
there was another layer to sort of simulate the atmosphere.
And then there's this little bright spot.
It's called the specular highlight. So it's the reflection of sunlight off of water.
Those are the pieces, but you can't just slap them all together.
It just didn't look realistic. It looks kind of flat, or the clouds are sort of too see-through. So I just hit Command Z a lot.
There's artistry to creating the world.
What I imagine it to be. Unfortunately, I'm not an astronaut. I've never been to space. But I've looked at these images over and over again, trying to sort of get the essence of it.
So look, if you want to believe that the only way to get a photograph is by taking ribbons of imagery and splicing them together and blah, 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 that Mr. Blue Marble said, then that's fine. You can live with that statement, and that's fine. But the thing is even if I were to give you one of these photos, or give you the couple shots from the moon, what strikes me is that no one goes, let's just say I gave you the photo. Okay, I was wrong. That is a real shot of the Earth from the moon, the Earthrise or whatever. The person goes, haha, got him. He's wrong and I'm right, moving on. You don't go, wait a minute. There's only one picture of the Earth that they took of the moon in 6 missions. One? They would have taken hundreds. They would have taken so many. Think about how many pictures people take before they go out to dinner. Bathroom selfies. I mean, I've taken more videos in my car today. Yes, it's 2023, but you're going to the moon. You would take dozens, you would take hundreds. So the fact that people are just looking to say I'm wrong, rather than it set in and go, holy cow. Even if those pictures are real, they still admit they weren't able to take a single one for 30 years, and now they're photoshopping the most famous ones. If that's not a red flag to you, I can't help you. And it's just so telling because the only pictures that people are sending me are either from the fake moon missions, pictures of the Earth with a box around it. One that Mr. Blue Marble created where he's using Command Z a lot, and you can literally see where the clouds are being repeated and copied and pasted. Or we've got ones like this. Look over my head over here. What's that say in the clouds? It says sex, S-E-X, plain as day. Disney, anyone? It just reminds you of some of the Disney movies. We all know that Walt and NASA had a very close relationship. We know that Disney and NASA were both tightly connected with the CIA and Nazis, Project Paperclip. So I don't know what they're doing. Is this just some mockery? But you're photoshopping the Earth, and the only pictures that people can find that they're sending me are sex written in the clouds and Photoshop boxes around it. This is the red flag. There should be tons. So then when you jump over and you're like, oh, well, here's a satellite, a Japanese satellite, the Himawari 8's taking pictures every 10 minutes. Are you going to accept that the only person that can take pictures of the Earth is some random Japanese satellite that started in the late 2010s? We're going to get to that next, because that has also been proven to be fraudulent. If you're up there, you wouldn't need to fake all of these images and videos. And please don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Compare NASA's photos to one another. Listen to their explanations. Ask yourself why America shrunk half its size in 3 years. Do you believe an organization that was founded by Nazis, Freemasons, and the CIA? I would encourage you to double check that information. Oh, but Justin, I just went on Google and looked up Earth from space, and there's tons of images. They're all over NASA's website. Guys, is that really all it takes? One Google search? You don't think we've done that? This topic has been raging on for 7 years now. We've verified NASA's photos. Look at these two pictures. 5 years later, same exact cloud pattern. Copy and paste. So, find me one that hasn't been altered. And hell, find me someone that's taken pictures of our Earth that's not lying about it. If your girlfriend lied to you or your boyfriend lied to you 99 times, would you believe them the 100th time? Would you say they just walked in and said it's not true, so therefore it's not true? I just went to the .gov website. It says here Jeffrey Epstein killed himself, so he must have killed himself. Guys, let's not be so gullible. We're being called gullible for just believing in some wild theory. You verify the evidence of the claims made. When you verify the evidence of the claims made about the globe, you find a bunch of Photoshop and fakery. There are now more questions than there are answers. So please, y'all, look twice before you just send me a photo of the Earth that you think is legitimate from NASA's website.
Just briefly show you how they generate a picture every 10 minutes with what appears to be accurate and current weather. This is basically what they do. Now, don't take my word for it, as I always say. Go check it out for yourself. Number one, they have already created and stored transparent images of the weather over the oceans using climate simulation software, which they openly admit right here that they've done climate simulations up to the year 2095. But it's actually the year 2100 on this FTP server folder, and here's one of the images. And following some of the other images that you can find where the land masses are transparent, and they use all this simulation software to come up with the weather over the oceans. You know, since our weather data comes from our ground-based Doppler radar, and it's impossible to use ground-based systems to cover the entire vast oceans, so that's where the weather over the oceans comes from, their software simulations. Number two, now for the weather over the land, the NOAA has supercomputers that take data coming in from all over the world, Doppler radar feeds, and crunch it all together and combine it with the weather simulation data over the oceans, so they come up with a complete composite weather quote-unquote map, which is then wrapped around a ball in their 3D modeling software programs, just like we've shown countless times in our previous episodes with the Earth and the planets, etc. So, then what we get are composite images like this that are created in the 3D modeling software. The current Doppler weather.
Hey, Mighty. I'm bored of this channel. Can I switch it over to another one? Yeah, sure. That's fine. Alright. Oh, Mythbusters. I want to see this.
Howdy mates, welcome to Mythbusters. I'm your host, Crash Bandicoot, and today we're going to be playing some Minecraft. I know that's a little unusual for Mythbusters, but there is a little bit of a theory that I wanted to ask people about. So, if you'll follow me on Minecraft real quick, we can get started. Okay, so you'll see here that usually the world is supposed to be round, from what everyone is saying, but in Minecraft, it's usually flat. So, I'm wondering, why is that, Mike? Actually.
The Earth is flat? I never knew that. What? Knuckles, you can't be serious, right? Yeah, I can't believe I didn't even realize that. The Earth is flat! No. Bro, it's not. What do you mean? I mean, have you ever seen the Earth up in space? No. Exactly. So how can we know if it's actually round or not? Knuckles, you're so stupid. No, I'm not. I'm not stupid. I'm telling you, the Earth is flat. It's not flat. Oh yeah? Prove it then. Ugh.
Guys, what's going on here? I'm trying to cook in the kitchen, and I hear you guys arguing. Like, what is this argument about this time?
It's nothing, Tail. Yeah, you are, Knuckles, because the Earth is round. It's not flat.
Really? Really? About the Earth either being round or flat? Really? Are you guys that serious?
Tails, is the Earth flat or round? Answer me honestly.
Oh, so you want to know the answer to that question, Knuckles? It's easy. The Earth is round. It's not flat.
What? You think so too? Aw, come on. Are you serious? I told you. Shut it, Mighty.
No, I'm actually serious. The Earth is round. It's not flat. Come here. Come here. I gotta show you something.
Okay, fine, Tails. I'm coming up. And I'll prove to you that the Earth is flat.
Okay, Knuckles. I'm gonna prove to you that the Earth is round.
And bro, I'm telling you, the Earth is flat. I'm telling you that.
So, I want you to take a look at what I'm gonna draw right here on this notebook.
Okay, fine. Show your diagram.
So I can prove to you that it's false.
No, it's not. Shut up, Mighty.
The Earth is round like a ball. Next, you'll be telling me, when it comes to outer space, of course you're gonna think it's flat, but it's not. It's actually round like a ball, like this. So you see, your theory is not correct.
Bro, I don't know what you're going on about. It's clearly this is clearly stated that the Earth is flat.
I mean, it only looks like it's flat from our eye point of view. But I'm telling you, the Earth is round.
So, I'm not believing it. Not one bit. And you can't make me believe that. Because I know the truth.
Knuckles, how can you still think that the Earth is not... You know what? I'm done. I'm done, Knuckles. I'm not gonna argue with this any longer.
Yes, it does, Sonic. You just don't know it yet.
Dude, I'm telling you, the Earth is round. It's not flat. Knuckles, just take your evidence and leave. You already ruined my day, so I really don't care.
Alright then. I'm gonna go there right now to prove you wrong. Okay, plan B. Since the college was too busy, they sent a couple of professors to have a meeting here. So, I need to get some beverages and whatnot. They'll be here any minute. Oh, that's them. Okay. Oh, hurry up and get some beverages and I'll answer the door. Welcome, professors. I'm so glad that we could have this meeting here. Okay, so Knuckles, what is this all about? You said you made a scientific breakthrough? That I did, Mega Man. Okay, so what is this about? Well, first things first. Does anybody want a drink? Oh, well, that's very considerate of you. Do you have any wine? Sorry. No, we have orange juice, some water, and some grape juice. I think I'll have a bottle of water. Alright. Anyone else want a bottle of water? Yeah. Alright then. I'll be right back real quick. Okay, got a bottle of water for everyone. So, all of you can drink up and I'm gonna get the meeting started. So, the scientific breakthrough that I want to discuss about is about the Earth. So, what have you got in mind about the Earth? Well, I'm glad you asked. I have recently discovered that the Earth is flat. Okay, do you have any proof or evidence or something to back that up? That I do, Mega Man. Let me just go over my notes real quick. So, you see here, the circle's flat, and this ball is round. But yet, look at the Earth. It's nowhere near the round section. It's definitely flat for sure. And also, you know, Minecraft is based on real life. So, if the Earth is flat because of Minecraft, then the Earth is definitely flat. So, let me go over to my new whiteboard and I'll show you. Okay, so let's go over a few things. So you see, Minecraft, this is Minecraft as in the Earth. And this is how accurate it looks. But, you got this, and they claim that it's round. I don't think so. Hold on, let me exit out. I don't think so. Like this is not accurate. This right here, this is definitely accurate. Okay. Any questions? You're kidding, right? Nope. I'm charging you for wasting my time. Guess haters are gonna hate when they can't handle the truth. You know what? No, I'm not just gonna sit back and take this. World round lovers, that the Earth is flat!
Follow me, I'm standing on the border of everything. Listen close, can you hear the spirits sing? Those messages are long ago.
Shalom Israel, Shabbat Shalom. This is Judah for Life coming to you live again. As always, we give praise to our Heavenly Father, Yahuwah, and everything He has done for us up until this time and era. In today's lesson, video, we're going to be talking about these Freemasonic sun-worshiping idiots. Right? Now, I'm going to show you who came up with the Big Bang Theory. And also we're going to talk about we're going to delve further into them not ever landing on the moon. They're lying to you. So like here, you have all these Freemasonic occult symbols. Okay? Like here, you have this Masonic, you have this Muslim hat, this Fez hat. Look at this hat right here. And this is the same hat that you see on, this is the same hat that you see on lovestriners.org with the hospital for kids. Look at that. Who do y'all think he's fooling, man? Who do you think he's fooling? These people are Masons. The Masons. Now, let's get into the information. Okay? And for those who want to know what this book is entitled, The Flat Earth Conspiracy. And then we're going to delve into this book right here, also entitled by Edward Hendry, The Greatest Lie on Earth, Proof that Our World is Not a Moving Globe. But the greatest lie is they're hiding our identity. They have hid our identity. The Israelites, the Hebrews, the black men and women, the African Americans. It's been scattered across the face of the earth. But let's get into this information. So check this out. It says here, so as you see here, these are Masons. These are Masons. All these people are Masons. So it says, the Masonic Sun Worshipping Globalist Cult of NASA. So the author says, his name is Eric Dubé, he says, in my book, Famous Freemasons Exposed, I showed how Nicholas Copernicus, I talked about Nicholas Copernicus in my last video, Johannes Kepler, Galileo Galilei, and Isaac Newton, the four forefathers of the globalist heliocentric doctrine, all posed for Masonic portraits, highlighting various symbols and hand signs denoting their affiliation with the Brotherhood. Galileo poses on a Masonic checkerboard floor, Kepler with the hand-hidden sign, and all four of them pose with the Masonic compass and a globe while flashing the Masonic M hand sign. Sir Isaac Newton was even knighted by Queen Anne at Trinity College Masonic Master Lodge. So here's the M sign he's talking about. Okay? And then, when you drop down here, it says, an inordinate number of NASA astronauts, the current propagators of the globalist heliocentric doctrine, are and were admitted Freemasons as well. John Glenn, two-time U.S. Senator and one of NASA's first astronauts, is a known Mason. Buzz Aldrin Jr., the second man to lie about walking on the moon, is admitted. He's an admitted ring-wearing, hand sign flashing 33rd degree Mason from Montclair Lodge, number 144, New Jersey. See that? These people are Masons. They're Masons. Now listen to this. It's all sun worship, right? Now listen to this. Let's go back. We're gonna bring it out, Israel. These people are lying to you. They never went on the moon. They're lying. Now listen to this. I've had this book for some time now. Now listen to what these scientists are saying. How many miles the Earth is away? How many miles the sun and the moon is? Right. So it says there are several theories about the relative size and distance of the sun and moon, all with their points of evidence and point of contention. Flat earthers throughout the ages have used sectex and plane trigonometry, attempting to make such calculations, usually colluding the sun and moon both to be only about 32 miles in diameter and less than a few thousand miles from the Earth. Perhaps the least plausible model, certainly the most exaggerated and imaginative, is the reigning heliocentric theory, claiming the sun to be a whopping 865,374 miles in diameter, 92,955,807 miles from the Earth, and the moon 202,159 miles in diameter and 238,900 miles from the Earth. Heliocentric astronomical figures always sound perfectly precise, but they have historically been notorious for regularly and drastically changing them to suit their various models. For instance, in his time, Copernicus calculated the sun's distance from the Earth to be 3,391,200 miles. The next century, so what is a century? A century is 100 years. The next century, Johannes Kepler decided it was actually 12,376,800 miles away. Isaac Newton once said, quote, "It matters not whether we reckon it 28 or 54 million miles distance from either 54 million miles distance, for either would do just well." How scientific. Benjamin Martin calculated between 81 and 82 million miles. Thomas Dilworth calculated 93,726,900 miles. John Hind stated positively 95,298,260 miles. Benjamin Gold said more than 96 million miles, and Christian Mayer thought it was more than 104 million. See, these people are liars, man. Who's coming up with all these figures and calculations? These people are lying to you. They never went to the moon. They're lying to you. Now, it's all Freemasons. Freemasonry. It says the Earth is not a planet. Planets are just stars, and stars are not suns. Now, let's see, because I don't want to go over my time. Okay? And they talk about gravity and things of that nature, right? Now, like here, Masons. Okay? It's all Freemason. Bill Nye. What's this dude's name? I forget what this guy's name is. Neil Armstrong, not Neil Armstrong, Neil deGrasse Tyson. So it says here, look at this, right? It says here that NASA's logo is a giant red forked serpent's tongue overlaying the starry heavens. Serpents, and specifically the forked tongues, have long been associated with lying, deceit, cleverness, and two-facedness, manipulation with Satan, the devil. Why would the National Aeronautics and Space Administration choose this as their official logo? The United Nations, the New World Order government headquarters, built on land donated by 33rd degree Freemason John D. Rockefeller. It's represented by a logo flag which clearly depicts a flat earth divided into 33 sections. Now, here you have over here all these Freemasonic signs. Freemason. Right here. These guys have Masonic rings on them, Masons. They're liars. Now listen to this. Look at all this Freemason symbolism. The first person to ever present the idea of a sun-centered universe was Pythagoras of Samos in around 500 BC. Pythagoras is also widely accepted by Masonic historians as being the very first Freemason. Master Mason Dr. James Anderson said in his defense of Masonry that I am fully convinced that Freemasonry is very nearly allied to the old Pythagorean discipline, from whence I am persuaded it may in some circumstances very just claim a descent. Master Mason William Hutchinson wrote in his Spirit of Masonry that the ancient Masonic record brings us positive evidence of the Pythagorean doctrine and the Basilidian principles, making the foundation of our religious and moral duties. See that? Look at this postage stamp. This postage stamp says, I want you to see this. It's not. I'm going to read it for you. He says, the first Mason on the moon, he was a master Mason in Montclair. Okay? This is talking about Buzz Aldrin. This dude never went to the moon. He's lying to you. Look at all these Freemason hands, Freemason symbolism. This is Freemasonry. Freemasonry. These dudes are liars. They never went to the moon. Like this. The NASA moon and Mars landing hoaxes. In 1969, Apollo moon landings. In 1976, Vikings and other subsequent Mars landings. All images showing a spherical rotating Earth. All supposed space stations and satellites. Orbiting the bulb of Earth, every Hubble Photoshop image and the entire NASA's organization are one big hoax created to convince you that the Earth is not flat. Over the past 5 decades, through lies and photo and video trickery, the Freemasons at NASA have effectively convinced the entire world to believe several myths totally contrary to our senses and personal experiences. Okay? I can't come up with this garbage. Like this. They said, we on the moon. Ain't no damn moon. Lying to you. These dudes are in the desert. They're in the desert. Are you going to believe our Heavenly Father? Or are you going to believe man, his creation? Look at this. It says, another solid proof of NASA living up to its forked serpent tongue logo are the many supposed moon rocks given to museums the world over by Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. Shortly after Apollo 11, private investigator Paul Jacobs reported asking the U.S. Department of Geology head whether he had examined the moon rocks and if he could verify their authenticity. To which the geologist simply laughed and insinuated that people high in the U.S. government knew all about the cover-up. More recently, in 2009, curators at Amsterdam's Rijksmuseum Museum investigated their moon rock, personally given to them by Bob Armstrong and Aldrin in 1969, only to find that it was actually a worthless piece of petrified wood. Are you hearing this, Israel? These dudes never went to the moon. You can't land on moon. How can you land on light? They're lying to you. They said, oh, we bought this back from the moon. They examined it and tested it. They said, no, this ain't from the moon. This is wood. This came from the earth. Now, what do you notice in this segment right here? Didn't I just show you this in that movie Capricorn 1 with them staging this? You people would have wake up. They're lying to you. You can't trick me. Come on, we spin on a ball Earth at 90-some thousand miles per hour. Get out of here, man. Get out of here with that garbage. Use your brain. Use the brain the Most High gave you. Use the senses. Do you feel as though you're spinning 1,000 miles per hour? Do you feel when you look out in the morning sky and you see the sun, do you feel as though the sun is 93 million miles away? Or is it only a few thousand miles away? Question this stuff. Question this stuff. Now, I didn't want to take up too much time in this book, but like right here, you have here these Masonic aprons. These what the some of those camps wear. IUIC, following out the master, the white man. Okay. Now, so let's put this book to the side. If you want, you can pick this book up at your own convenience and leisure. You know what I'm saying? He even talks about the Nephilim, the giants. They have all these bones. They have these bones that's been dug up, and they have them hidden in their museums because they don't want you to know that these giants, these Nephilim, these fallen angels were really on the earth. They're still here. They have just diminished in size. Okay? All these big bones. Okay? A brother, I'm toning down on the use of my profanity, Israel, because you know me, I like to go. I go in. When I get mad, I go in. I use a lot of profanity. You know what I'm saying? Because this is the bastardized language. This is not our language. But a brother was telling me that when we speak these curse words, we actually these words have we're putting spells on people because these words have symbolism, spells on them. You know what I'm saying? So look at this hat. This is a Muslim hat. These are Shriners. The same hat is the same hat that these people are wearing for these for the Shriners Hospital. And I'm not trying to say that these children are not sick in these hospitals. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that. But who knows? I question all of that stuff. Who knows? Can it be possible that these kids are acting? You see them for yourself on the Sandy Hook thing that them kids is acting. You know what I'm saying? So you have here Shriners. All these, look at this. All these symbols. That's dealing with the sun and the moon. These people are putting the Most High's creation above him. Okay, look at that. Now, let's put this book to the side. This book is the title of Flat Earth Conspiracy. Now, let's jump into this book. Okay? And listen to this. It says the most universally accepted scientific belief today is that the Earth is a globe spinning on its axis at a speed of approximately 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, while at the same time it is orbiting the sun at approximately 67,000 miles per hour. All of this is happening as the sun as the sun in turn is supposed to be hurtling through the Milky Way galaxy at approximately 500,000 miles per hour. The Milky Way galaxy itself is alleged to be racing through space at a speed ranging from 300,000 to 1,340,000 miles per hour. Who's coming up with these calculations with these numbers? These white folks. I'm keeping it real. It's white men. What most people are not told is that the purported spinning, orbiting, and speeding through space has never been proven. In fact, every scientific experiment that has ever been performed to determine the motion of the Earth has been proven the Earth is stationary. Yet, textbooks ignore the scientific proof that contradicts the myth of a spinning ball and orbiting globe. Now, let's get into this. Let's go into this book. Okay? Let's into this book, there's a lot of information in this book. It's about 500 some pages worth. You know what I'm saying? Let's see. Like here, with their composite imagery, it says here in figure 98, what we're looking at, it says that close up of sex written in clouds on image of the earth that NASA claims is a photograph of space. Whenever you ever looked up in the sky and looked at the clouds, and have you ever seen the clouds spell out an image, spell out a word? It is notable that the word sex in the clouds is written at a 23.4 degree vertical angle, which is the supposed tilt of the globe of the earth under the heliocentric model. Drop down, it says, the high priest of the heliocentric religion did not arbitrarily pick 23.4 degrees. The adjacent horizontal angle is the adjacent horizontal angle to the supported 23.4 tilt of the earth under the heliocentric model is 66.6 degrees. 90 degrees take away 23.4 degrees is 66.6 degrees. That's 666. Okay? Now, they're trying to take the Most High out of the equation. They don't want you to believe that there's a creator that's governing everything, that's observing everything that we do. Okay, so let's do this. I told I was going to go into who came up with the Big Bang Theory, right? Okay. Like right here, this is the NASA's, the National Aeronautics and Space Administration Advanced Spacecraft Center, September 19, 1969. And it says, illustration is Luther A. Smith, 33rd degree Mason, Sovereign's Grand Commander, Supreme Council, 33rd degree. It says, Dear Grand Commander, it was a great moment in my life to be cordially welcomed to the House of the Temple on September 16, 1969, by you and Grand Secretary General Kleinev, 33rd degree, and also the member of your staff. My great pleasure, however, was to be able to present to you on this occasion the Scottish Rite flag, which I carry on the Apollo 11 flight to the moon, emblazoned in color with the Scottish Rite double-headed eagle, the Blue Lodge emblem, and the Sovereign Grand Commander insignia. And this letter was written to Bud Aldrich. Okay, now let's do this. Because Einstein, he didn't know what the hell he was talking about either. He was a liar too. Coming with that MC squared, that was garbage. Einstein was a puppet. They was using his ass. It was using him. Apparently, some very powerful interests are very happy about the hoax of Einstein's theory of relativity. These powerful interests are the dark and evil Jewish-controlled Time magazine. These powerful interests are dark and evil. Jewish-controlled Time magazine is owned by one of the largest media conglomerates in the world, Time Warner. The founder of the magazine were Brenton Hayden and Henry Lewis, who were both members of the Satanic Secret Society, the Brotherhood of Death, commonly known as the Skull and Bones Society. George W. Bush is a Skull and Bones man. He's a Skull and Bones man. Okay? Now, let me go here. Let's do this. Okay. I'm trying to find this section with the okay, here we go. Now listen to this. So there's Buzz Aldrin. I mean, there's George Latimer, Lemaitre, and Albert Einstein in 1933. Now, let's read this, Israel. Now check this out. Okay. Okay, now listen to this. The religion of modern cosmology, right? Writing the first waves of the Copernican revolution in the 1550s, 60s, and 70s was Kabbalistic Isaac Luria. He understood how fellow Kabbalistics Nachmanides' 13th century Big Bang paradigm could actually be built upon the Copernican basis. And he promptly tied that understanding in with Kabbalistic Ben Hakanan's first century calculation of a 15 billion year old universe, which only another Kabbalistic would be privy to. You see that? Now, let's get into the information. Okay. Listen to this. It said, who was it that trotted out the Kabbalah inspired heliocentric model? None other than a Roman Catholic priest, Nicholas Copernicus. George William Wepler, writing for the Catholic Education Resource Center, reveals that Copernicus was a Catholic priest who was a temporary administration of the Diocese of Freiburg. His priestly status was confirmed by DNA analysis that established that Copernicus was buried in the Polish Cathedral of Freiburg. Now, listen to this. I'm going to try to read this in its entirety. We're not spinning on a ball earth. That's the first thing you're told when you go to school. This is what you're presented with when you go to school. When you are put in that classroom, it's called indoctrination. It's called programming. This is what you're presented with in every classroom in kindergarten, preschool. They say this is the earth. It's spinning on the globe. This is what they tell us. But we are too young. We are too premature in thinking. This is what we think we're living on. A spinning ball. Okay? Now, let's go back. And it says here that Marshall Hall explains how the Jewish Kabbalah is the source of the Big Bang that supposedly caused the universe to spring into existence billions of years ago. This is what your atheists talk about, the Big Bang. The size of the universe is now determined by the dictates of the Kabbalah. That bookend addition to outlining the relativity concept to allow the 15 plus billion year age of the universe also outlines that the Big Bang and expanding universe concepts, which gives license to claim that billions of light year distance to the stars. Both of these myths about the age and size of the universe have been brought to fruition by the theoretical science establishment, which has used NASA's Origins program to establish the Kabbalah reign over all science. End quote. It says Hall quotes a Jewish commentator who states that the quote, the Ramban, 13th century Rabbi Nachmanides, who refers to what he writes as coming from hidden knowledge, says that this initial creation was something so small and without physical form This idea that everything originated from a single point in the universe is what science calls the Big Bang, end quote. Research has confirmed that the Jewish commentator quoted by Hall is correct. The modern figure of 14 billion years attributed to the age of the universe is not based upon science, but rather a mystical religious belief. This belief that the universe is billions of years old was first announced by Nachmanides. Nachmanides was a known rabbi, which is an acronym of his name, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman, 1194 to 1270 AD. Nachmanides was the foremost expert on Jewish religions, laws, and customs of his age. Now, it says here that Nachmanides interpreted the creation account in Genesis not as 6 literal 24-hour days, but rather a much longer period that equaled approximately 15.34 billion years. This is very close to the 14 plus billion years that is often hypothesized by modern so-called scientists. These white people. You see that? Now, let's go over here. And it says here that, who do we find revealed to the world as the progenitor or the forefather of the Big Bang Theory? Another Roman Catholic priest. The Jewish-controlled press tried their best to conceal the Jewish religious origins of the Big Bang Theory. As is typical of an intelligence operation, the Jewish-controlled media have done what is known in the intelligence community as a limited hangout. They admit that the Big Bang has its origin in religion, but they conceal that it is Babylonian Judaism. They instead steer the public toward their gentle frontman in the Catholic Church, while they remain in the shadows pulling the strings. In a PBS article titled Big Bang Theory, a Roman Catholic creation, Edgar Herwick claims that it was a Roman Catholic priest who first postulated the Big Bang Theory. While the Big Bang Theory is as old as the universe itself, our concept of it is still strikingly new, less than 100 years old. And if you dig into its origins, you come across a curious fact. Atheists, devout Christians, you might want to sit down for this. The Big Bang Theory was first proposed by a Roman Catholic priest. It wasn't just any priest. It was Monsignor George Lemaitre, a brilliant Belgian who entered the Jesuit priesthood following his service as an artillery officer in the Belgian army during World War I. He also was an accomplished astronomer and a talented mathematician and physician. After earning his graduate degree in astronomy from the University of Cambridge in England, he came to Boston and spent a year at Harvard College Observatory before earning his doctorate at MIT. It says here that as astonishing as Lemaitres' idea was, perhaps equally surprising to us now was the reaction of the church. Lemaitre was not jailed by the Pope like Galileo. He was not excommunicated the way Johannes Kepler was by the Lutheran Church. Quite the opposite. In the early 1950s, Pope Pius XII not only declared that the Big Bang and Catholic concept of creation were compatible, he embraced Lemaitres' idea as a scientific validation for the existence of God and of Catholicism. Notice that the article from the PBS states that the Big Bang originated only 100 years ago with a Catholic priest. There is no mention of the Jewish rabbi Nachmanides, whose postulation of the Big Bang predated Lamontre's theory by approximately 700 years. At a conference in the 1930s, where Lamontre presented his theory, Einstein reportedly remarked, quote, "This is the most beautiful and satisfactory explanation of creation to which I have ever listened." These two white people, here's Albert Einstein, your most beloved MC equals MC squared puppet. Einstein, who was a Talmudic Jew, looked upon the Big Bang Theory with favor. It seems that Einstein's approval puts the Jewish imprimatur on Lamontre's Big Bang Theory. Einstein's influence in the Zionist community was such that on November 17, 1952, Einstein was offered the presidency of Israel, which he with regret turned down. Are you hearing this, Israel? The Illuminati order was not invented by Adam Weishaupt, but rather renewed and reformed. The first known Illuminati order, Alumbrado, was founded in 1492 by Spanish Jews called Morenos, who were also known as crypto Jews. You see that? Now, so we just proved to you where the Big Bang Theory came from. We're just proving it. So, all that trash, all that garbage, they're talking about they went to the moon. They didn't go to the moon. They never went to the moon. How can you land on light? How can you land on light? Look at this. Freemason Buzz Aldrin to the right, with Luther A. Smith, a Masonic sovereign Grand Master, holding the Masonic flag. Aldrin took with him when he allegedly landed on the moon. Here's that rock that they say they got from the moon. With the compliments of the Ambassador of the United States of America, J. William Mendendorf II, to commemorate the visit to the Netherlands of the Apollo 11 astronauts. It's that same rock that they said they got from the moon. They found out to be a fraudulent. It came out that it was petrified wood. Not surprisingly, U.S. Embassy officials were unable to explain the findings, but are investigating. As of this writing, it has been over 6 years since the U.S. government has promised to investigate the moon rock fraud. There has been no findings announced since that time. When the U.S. government promises to find the cause of the fraudulent moon rock that came from NASA after 6 years, does not announce any findings, that suggests that the U.S. government is the culprit. NASA is the source for the fraudulent moon rock. The U.S. ambassador is the official representative of the U.S. government in the foreign country. The U.S. government will never explain how they presented a fake moon rock as a gift to the foreign government official. Because to do so would require it to admit that all moon rocks are fake. NASA never went to the moon, and the fake moon rock, which was vetted through and authenticated by NASA and came directly from the official U.S. government represented in the Netherlands, is yet one more piece of evidence proving that the NASA moon landings were hoaxes. NASA was handing out fake moon rocks because they have no real moon rocks to give out. They have no real moon rocks because they never landed on the moon. Watch the movie Capricorn 1. These people are not on the moon. They're staging this in the desert. they use composite imagery through CGI. See, look, identical clouds on Earth 6 days apart, right? So they're showing you they're showing you the same cloud formations. All right? Like here, NASA's alleged photograph of the Earth flipped at 180 degrees, revealing sex written in the cloud formation. See that? We don't need an expert to detect that the July 6, 2015 Deep Space Climate Observatory satellite picture is not a candid photograph of Earth from space. The image itself contains the proof that it's a forgery. See that? If you look at the lower southwest portion of the globe image above, you can see that the graphic artist who drew the clouds drew in the word sex upside down. See that? So I'm proving everything I'm talking about. They can't trick me. What does the Bible say? The Most High said that in the book of Genesis, read the book of Genesis, the creation account in Genesis. He said he placed a firmament. There's water above the firmament, and we are inside of something. We are inside of something, and the Most High is above us, and he's looking down upon everything we do. And he placed the moon and the stars and the lights inside of here where we at, put lights in the sky, for times and seasons. So you're going to believe your Heavenly Father? Or are you going to believe the creation is creation? Man. No man is a liar. Okay? Now, let's see. Like, okay, so let's do this. Okay, let's do this. So, we click on, let's go to Google, and let's click on outer space. Let's say we floating out. They say we floating out of space. We float on the globe, right? And they say that it's asteroids and stuff all out there, right? So what's keeping the asteroids from coming into the Earth's atmosphere? This is what they say. This is what the Earth looks like, right? Okay. It says thousands of satellites out there. There ain't no satellites out there. They're lying to you. They're lying to you. There's no satellites in outer space. Okay? Matter of fact, let me do this before I run out of time. John McClain, he was a black guy. And he talked about flat Earth. McQueen, I forget what the guy's name. I'm trying to find this guy's name. Because he had wrote an article. And I can't find it. Man. Man, I can't find that article. John McQueen. I think his name is McQueen. Flat plane. I can't find it, Israel. I can't find it, but even NASA had wrote admit a flat I can't find it. I can't find it. Man. What is that guy's name? John McQueen. McLean. I can't find it. I'm almost out of time. I'm almost out of time. I can't find it. I can't find that article. Let's see, I'm out of time, Israel. But we have done enough to show and prove that we're not living on a flat earth ball spinning through outer space. Lying to you.
200.
I can't find that article. Let me see. We're not spinning in outer space. You're tasked to perform your own demonstrations, and you come up with your own conclusions. Okay? This is only a 6-page article. You can look this up. You can look this up. So it says, scientists and astronomers say that the sun is 93 million miles. He says, how did they measure it? How did they measure that? What tools they use to come up with and say the sun is 93 million miles away? He says, here's a practical illustration of the infallible method I have given for finding out the distance of the sun's backward. Take a piece of paper. Each of the 4 corners forms an angle of 90 degrees, and together a total of 360 degrees, the same side, the same degrees of a circle. So they say it's 365 days a year. What they're lying to you. They added 5 days to the degrees. It's only 360 degrees on the circle. So it says here that he's telling you what to do, how to perform these observations you can do on your own, right? You can perform this on your own. It's on a 6-page article. And he done chopped those scientists down, those Masonic, those Masons. He tells you, like, let's go back here to Neil deGrasse Tyson says Earth is pear-shaped. Listen to this fool.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. It gets wider in the middle. And so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier. Yeah. Chubby is a good word. It's like pear-shaped. 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 Pear-shaped.
Pear-shaped? Wait, let's go back to this article. What did he just say? This man right here, the Earth is plane, John Edward Quinlan. He says that neither is it pear-shaped, as Professor W.J. Solis suggested as recently as the May 24, 1906 at the Royal Institution at Albemarle Street in London. What this fool just say? This fool just said the Earth is pear-shaped. He says, come on, NASA, make up your mind. What does the Earth really look like? So this is the earliest they have of the Earth in 1972. Then they change, they keep on changing. They keep changing every year. So I come with facts and proof on my channel. I'm not just speaking stuff out of nothing, out of thin air. So let's listen to this dummy. Listen to this fool again.
So you spin, when you spin pizza dough, it kind of flattens out. It gets wider in the middle. And so Earth, throughout its life, even when it formed, it was spinning. And it got a little wider at the equator than it does at the poles. So it's not actually a sphere. It's oblate. And officially it's an oblate spheroid. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubbier. Yeah. Chubby is a good word. It's like pear-shaped. 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 Pear-shaped.
When did he say it? When did this come out? Okay, I don't know when he did his interview. He says pear-shaped.
Right. That's what we call it. But not only that, it's slightly wider below the equator than above the equator.
A little chubbier.
A little chubby is a good word. It's like pear-shaped. Pear-shaped. It's like pear-shaped. It's a good word. It's like pear-shaped. It's a good word. It's like pear-shaped.
What did he just say? It says that it is an unquestionable fact that the Earth is an extended plane with an irregular land surface and not of a spherical globular shape with two flat ends, as scientists and astronomers assert in their speculations, as most people believe. Neither is it pear-shaped, as Professor W.J. Solis suggested as recently as the May 24, 1906 at the Royal Institution at Albemarle Street in London. And with that being said, I say peace and shalom. We're not flying out of space. The Most High is sitting right above us, watching everything we do. Shalom.
Welcome again to my channel. The firmament, third heaven, and the biblical flat earth proof. The firmament. On the second day in the Genesis narrative, the Lord calls for there to be a firmament in the midst of the waters to divide the waters, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Genesis 1:6-8 KJV. The term firmament and its identity has been one of the greatest puzzles concerning the creation account, mostly because of its Hebrew definition, Reiki Yarakia from 7554, properly, an expanse, i.e. the firmament or, apparently, visible arch of the sky firmament. Rikaraka, a primitive root, to pound the earth, as a sign of passion, by analogy to expand, by hammering, by implication, to overlay, with thin sheets of metal beat, make broad, spread abroad, forth, over, out, into plates, stamp, stretch. Most people interpret this to mean just the expanse of the sky, the atmosphere, or outer space, or both, which it is, but the full meaning goes well beyond that simplistic interpretation. The creation of the firmament is associated with the placement of a defined heavenly structure. Many modern scholars consign the term firmament as a relic of a pre-scientific culture and translate the Hebrew word rakia as a dome or vault in some modern Bibles, but it is rendered as firmament in the KJV for good reason. The problem that puzzles people is the implication in the Hebrew language of the firmament being a firm, fixed structure, firmament. That structure, and the KJV word choice, can be explained in the context of the ruin reconstruction interpretation of Genesis. The creation scientists of today's fundamentalism, young earth creationists, have interpreted the waters above the firmament as a theoretical water canopy which once surrounded the earth, but no longer exists. They cite this as their source for the waters of Noah's flood. This is absolutely incorrect and a concept that does not exactly hold water, pun intended, when closely examined within the literal framework of the Bible's Genesis narrative. The reason is because of what is said in this passage, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days and years, and let them be for lights in the firmament of the heaven to give light upon the earth," and it was so. And God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. Genesis 1:14-16 KJV, this verse says that the sun, moon, and stars are in the firmament. Therefore, applying the rules of grammar and logic, those waters that are above the firmament must therefore be above the sun, moon, and stars. In other words, those particular waters are above the visible cosmos. For some this is a hard pill to swallow, but that is exactly what the Bible is saying. Praise Him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens. Psalms 148:4 KJV, the Bible says that all wisdom and knowledge is found in the Lord Jesus Christ, the incarnate Word of God, see Colossians 2:3. The same holds true for the Holy Scriptures, the written Word of God. According to the Scriptures, there is a physical/spiritual structure to the universe. The Apostle Paul makes reference to the importance of this knowledge in the book of Ephesians, where he wrote, "That Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth, and length, and depth, and height, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with all the fullness of God." Ephesians 3:17-19 KJV, pay close attention to the structure of the grammar. Paul is speaking about two different things in this passage. The first is the structure of things, the breadth, and length, and depth, and height. Then there is the conjunction word "and," which is followed by the second thing, to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge. In other words, Paul is saying there are two things the believer can and should know. 1. The dimensions and structure of all things, physical things, and how they are structured. 2. The love of Christ, a spiritual thing which is beyond full comprehension by man. A corollary to the truth of this passage is found in this Old Testament proverb, "The heaven for height, and the earth for depth, and the heart of kings is unsearchable." Proverbs 25:3 KJV, the firmament deals with the structure of the present heavens and earth, Genesis 2:1, as opposed to the structure of the original heaven and earth, Genesis 1:1. In the present heavens and earth there exists a 3 heaven structure. In the old world of the original creation, there was a different configuration. Let's look at Genesis 1:6 again and more closely. "And God said, Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. Gen 1:6-7 KJV, diagram of three heavens. On the second day of the regeneration, the Lord God divided the waters, plural, of the great deep into two parts, with the firmament in the midst. According to Genesis 1:10, both the waters that were upon the face of the earth and the waters which he placed above the firmament he called seas, and God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters called he seas, and God saw that it was good. Gen 1:10 KJV, we know that the waters on the earth are called seas in the Bible, but there is also another sea that is spoken of in the scriptures, and that one is above the firmament. Special note, notice that the word sea is capitalized at Genesis 1:10 in the KJV Bible. But, exactly where is above the firmament? During the 7 days of the Genesis regeneration, the Lord God defined three heavens. The first heaven is the earth's atmosphere, and God said, "Let the waters bring forth abundantly the moving creature that hath life, and fowl that may fly above the earth in the open firmament of heaven." Gen 1:20 KJV, the second heaven is the vast expanse of the physical universe, outer space as we call it, and God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs, and for seasons, and for days, and years." Gen 1:14 KJV, these two heavens constitute a continuum called the firmament, and this firmament is collectively called heaven, and God called the firmament heaven. And the evening and the morning were the second day. Gen 1:8 KJV, the third heaven is above this upper sea, and this higher sea is below the throne of God, and before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were four beasts full of eyes before and behind. Revelation 4:6 KJV, this particular sea is above the firmament, the known physical universe. It represents a firm and impassable barrier between the world of man, below, and the world of God, above. Then said the Jews, "Will he kill himself? Because he saith, Whither I go, ye cannot come. And he said unto them, Ye are from beneath, I am from above, ye are of this world, I am not of this world." John 8:22-23 KJV, here are some additional proof verses in the Bible which refer to this particular sea. Praise him, ye heavens of heavens, and ye waters that be above the heavens. Psalms 148:4 KJV, this is the sea that John saw in his visions, and before the throne there was a sea of glass like unto crystal, and in the midst of the throne, and round about the throne, were four beasts full of eyes before and behind. Rev 4:6 KJV, as we said, this is a present sea of separation, is a firm and impassable barrier between the world of man, below, and the world of God, above, and the only way through there is in the Lord Jesus Christ. That barrier structure can be seen in the design of the tabernacle and the temple. It is represented by the veil. The diagram below shows a comparison of these things to the structure and layout of Moses' tabernacle, which is the same basic arrangement used in the layouts of the first and second Jewish temples in Jerusalem. Tabernacle of Moses. The sea under discussion is a barrier between the second and third heavens, represented by the veil between the holy place and holiest of all. The brazen altar represents the earth where the sacrifice was to be made. The laver in Moses' tabernacle, and the molten sea in Solomon's temple, see below, were places for the priests to wash themselves before entering the holy place. You must be washed in the blood of the Lamb of God to pass into that most holy place. Molten sea, the third heaven. This now gives us a better understanding of what the Apostle Paul was talking about in the book of 2 Corinthians 12:2, where he speaks of a place called the third heaven. "I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body, I cannot tell, or whether out of the body, I cannot tell, God knoweth, such an one caught up to the third heaven." 2 Cor 12:2 KJV, although the third heaven is not directly mentioned in the Genesis narrative, the established structure of all things is defined in Genesis 1 and, when understood, allows us to comprehend exactly where and what Paul was talking about when he mentions the third heaven in his letter. It also gives the reader a better understanding of John's vision in Revelation 4. Again, when the Lord God divided the waters, he created a boundary which presently exists between the two lower heavens, which constitute the firmament, and the third heaven, where the throne of God is. That boundary is that sea, and again that sea is above the two lower heavens of the firmament. It is also likened in places to crystal or smooth glass, and the likeness of the firmament upon the heads of the living creature was as the color of the terrible crystal, stretched forth over their heads above. Ezekiel 1:22 KJV, the reason it appears like a smooth, crystal surface is because it is frozen, the waters are hid as with a stone, and the face of the deep is frozen. Job 38:30 KJV, and they saw the God of Israel, and there was under his feet as it were a paved work of a sapphire stone, and as it were the body of heaven in his clearness. Exodus 24:10 KJV, it is also likened to glass, and I saw as it were a sea of glass mingled with fire, and them that had gotten the victory over the beast, and over his image, and over his mark, and over the number of his name, stand on the sea of glass, having the harps of God. Revelation 15:2 KJV, with this understanding of what exactly the firmament is and the structure of all things that God made during the 7 days, many things that were previously obscure suddenly take on real meaning and enrich the reader's understanding. In summary, here is the structure of the physical world as it now exists from the face of the earth upwards: the lower sea of physical waters, are seas and oceans, the first heaven, the atmosphere, the second heaven, outer space, the sea above outer space, and below the third heaven, a sea of separation, and above it all, there is the third heaven. That Christ may dwell in your hearts by faith, that ye, being rooted and grounded in love, may be able to comprehend with all saints what is the breadth, and length, and depth, and height, and to know the love of Christ, which passeth knowledge, that ye might be filled with all the fullness of God. Ephesians 3:17-19 KJV, the structure of the heavens is a recurring theme throughout the Bible. It is reinforced, in typology, throughout the Bible. For example, it is likened to the floors of a building, which we call stories, and, sure enough, the same word is even used in the KJV Bible. It is used to describe the design of the heavens. It is he that buildeth his stories in the heaven, and hath founded his troop in the earth, he that calleth for the waters of the sea, and poureth them out upon the face of the earth, the Lord is his name. Amos 9:6 KJV, this pattern of 3 stories is also found in some other important things in the Bible, an example being the description of the design of Noah's ark: a window shalt thou make to the ark, and in a cubit shalt thou finish it above, and the door of the ark shalt thou set in the side thereof, with lower, second, and third stories shalt thou make it. Genesis 6:16 KJV, it is also used to describe the construction of the temple, the doorposts, and the narrow windows, and the galleries round about on their 3 stories, over against the door, sealed with wood round about, and from the ground up to the windows, and the windows were covered. Ezekiel 41:16 KJV, in the construction of Moses' tabernacle in the wilderness there were 3 main parts: 1, the outer court, where the brazen altar of sacrifice was; 2, the holy place, where the candlestick, table of shewbread, and golden altar of incense were; 3, the Holy of Holies, where the Ark of the Covenant was. Again, note that between parts 2 and 3 was a curtain for a partition, which matches the sea above the firmament, in type, in the structure of the 3 heavens. It is no coincidence that all these biblical things have a similar 3-tiered structure. There is much spiritual insight to be gained in further study of those things: 3 heavens, 3 levels inside Noah's Ark, 3 floors in a section of the temple, 3 sections to Moses' tabernacle. Concerning the design of the temple, keep in mind that Moses' tent tabernacle and Solomon's temple both had 3 main parts: the outer court, the holy place, where the table, lamp, and incense altar was, outside the veil, the most holy place, where the ark was, behind the veil. As you can see, this theme of structure based on 3s is consistent throughout the Bible. Even the basic structure of the Earth has three main divisions: the core, the mantle, and the crust. The Earth layers. Does the universe really have a structure? When you go into outer space, is there really any such thing as up and down? Is there a top and bottom? Does the cosmos have a definite shape? We cannot observe such in our three-dimensional view of the universe, but is that all that is really out there? Not according to the Bible. In the words of Lord himself, there is a world above the one we live in and can observe, and he said unto them, Ye are from beneath, I am from above, ye are of this world, I am not of this world. John 8:23 KJV. Just because we cannot observe or understand something does not disprove its existence. Definitely.
You know, someone said the world's a stage and each must play a part.
Good morning, boys and girls. Professor Ray here, doing another installation of the show. The Earth is spinning with Professor Ray. Yay! The Earth is spinning. Never stop spinning. Ha ha! Today's lesson is proving to you guys that space is real. Okay? Those flat earthers, they keep lying. I'm telling you, don't listen to them. Just listen to man. We always tell the truth. Now I've compiled a compilation of videos to show you guys that the moon landing was real, and that spacewalks are real, and that all the photos of the globe are real. Bullcrap! Bullcrap!
Secretary will disavow any knowledge of your actions. This tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds. Good luck, Jim.
You know, I'm gonna play for you guys is a funny thing happened on the way to the moon.